Hello and good day, everyone. The main topic of today's conversation is there a winning formula when it comes to building supply chain resilience? That is a million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, after all, there seems to be no respite from disruptions. Firstly, the pandemic, multiple waves of it. Then there was this crisis in Ukraine. The fear, if not an actual slowdown in the global economy, rising inflation, interest rates, and what have you. So for business leaders, while quick responses to sudden changes is critical, building long-term, structurally resilient supply chains has now become an imperative, given the frequency and the extent of disruptions. I have the perfect individual to talk about these issues and more in this conversation at NTLF. He has lived and breathed FedEx, a company that's at the heart of the supply chains of many global corporations, ships more than 20 million packages every single day, and manages endless threads of information. He has been with FedEx for more than 25 years now across multiple countries spanning at least 4 continents, and it will not be inappropriate to call him the founder and chief ideator at FedEx Dataworks, the digital subsidiary of the iconic company. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to talk to Sriram Krishnasamy today. Sriram, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. Hope all is well.
Krishnan, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to this august audience, and really appreciate and looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. So Sriram, it's been about 3 years or so since the inception of FedEx Dataworks. You describe it as an organization rooted in connecting the physical and digital sides of our network to meet today's needs and address tomorrow's challenges. I would like to start by asking you to tell us about FedEx Dataworks, its strategy, and the broader game plan behind it for FedEx.
Absolutely, Krishnan. So as you mentioned, FedEx's physical network is this, is kind of an indicator of global trade. If you think about it, 20 million packages across 20 million packages a day across 221 countries, multiple industry verticals, all the way from e-commerce to healthcare to automobile to high tech. It really is part of the nervous system that's global trade and commerce. These 20 million packages are extremely important treasure troves of data. Every single one of these packages gets scanned 10 to 15 times through its journey. Where is it originating from? Where is it going to? Who's shipping? Who's receiving? What are the important supply chain points into which we ingest these packages? It's all this information is sitting in this digital twin of this physical network. For the first 5 decades of our company, as you know, we were a disruptor in the parcel industry with the hub and spoke concept and absolutely positively next day philosophy that FedEx started. And we were always an information technology focused company. Tracking and tracing was started by FedEx. That our chairman famously said, information about a package is sometimes as important, if not more, than the package itself. But over the past 5 decades, this data, the power of this data has not been unleashed. And I was one of the people who always said that, we have to start thinking we're a physical first company, but we need to integrate the digital mindset into the physical first company. As the famous saying goes, be careful what you wish for. Early February 2020, the chairman said, okay, go start something. So I left my day job and handpicked 5 people, and 6 of us started in early February 2020 saying, let's start this entity and see how far we can go. But one of the very important design principles we followed, Krishnan, from day one was it was not technology for technology's sake. Problems first, technology follows. Clearly define what the problems are that our customers face, what happens when a disruption happens, how do you get resilient, as you said, how do you help your customers get resilient in their supply chain? Where some of the and how do we use data and advanced analytics to help optimize how we run our business as well, right? These were the broad problem statements, and we built our data infrastructure, our data lake, and our the models and algorithm that solve these problems with a focus on solving problems and not just with the focus of building the biggest data platform or the best technology there is. Of course, there are certain basics like resilience, safety, security that are incredibly important. We never compromised on that, but that's why FedEx Dataworks started. And today it's as you said, a separate subsidiary of FedEx. Over the past 2.5 years, we've gone from 6 people who started what was Skunkworks and is now 500 people in what is called Dataworks. And we solve problems, everything from pre-shipping through shipping, all the way to post-shipping insights that can help our customers and us leverage data and digital in order to be able to become more resilient. I'll give you a real-life example that's very true for the world that we live in today, right? I mean, the pandemic started, and human ingenuity, greatness of science, people came up with a vaccine in record time. Now, the vaccines need distribution. They need to be across the world in the hands of patients, in the hands of doctors and hospitals where it's administered. And the vaccines are very sensitive. The efficacy of the vaccine means you cannot leave a box behind in a location, or it cannot be 1 day late or 2 days late. It needs to be shipped incredibly fast. And the first set of vaccines, we had 40 days to take over thousands of pallets of these vaccines and distribute it across the world, not just United States, but across the world. This is what we call a white glove service. Somebody needs to watch it to make sure that if it is not where it needs to be, you need to pick it up and make sure that it's on its happy path to be able to get delivered on time. But it's humanly impossible to monitor every one of the vaccines that got distributed across the world, to have somebody watching how it moves. And that's where the power of data comes in, right? The team built what we call a package fingerprint. We built a model that trained on billions of packages historically that we shipped across the world, and identified events that need to happen for a package to stay in its happy path. And what it did is started to identify exception in events, right? And the team started focusing on managing the exceptions versus monitoring every one of the millions of packages. FedEx delivered vaccines with a service level of 99.8% without adding too many resources to white glove these vaccines across the world. And what the use case was vaccines. And then we took a step back and thought, hey, why can't we manage all our large customers this way? Today, the same model and the same infrastructure is running in every single customer service team of FedEx across Asia, Europe, and US. And that's how we use machine learning to get predictive about what the issues could be and be proactive in resolving those issues for our large customers. And billions of dollars of shipping is now being monitored through this tool that we built for the application of distribution of vaccines. I just wanted to bring it to life on the power of this, building this digital twin or this digital network, overlaying the incredibly powerful, far-reaching physical network that FedEx has built over 50 years, is a massive differentiator in helping us run our business and helping digitize our customer supply chain and make it more resilient.
That's an absolutely amazing story, Sriram. Thank you for sharing it. While I have millions of questions on the technology front of it, I want to be very focused, since we have only 20 minutes for this conversation, and dive right into the supply chain topic. So on that front, FedEx, as we all know, has had long-standing relationships with big box retailers and is playing an integral part in their supply chain, Sriram. With growing e-commerce, we know that retailers are recognizing the pitfalls of outsourcing the fulfillment. Right? I mean, when a shipment is delayed or goes wrong or whatever, the customer tends to blame the retailer, which is why several of the retailers we know are moving and owning their supply chains to have better control. Is this an opportunity or a threat, or maybe even both for FedEx and FedEx Dataworks, and why?
If we do something about it, it's a great opportunity. If we don't, it's a threat. At the end of the day, if you visualize an infinity loop where one part of it is visibility and the other part of it is optimization, that's what feeds optimization of supply chain and creation of resilient supply chains. Right? The more visibility you have, the better you optimize. The better you optimize, the more visibility you have, and it's a continuous growth process. One of the biggest paradigm shifts, I mean, like you said rightly, Krishnan, if you go to any marketplace and read reviews of products, if you read the negative reviews, there's a good chance that many of them are because the product didn't get there on time and not because there was anything wrong with the product itself, right? It's shipping and shopping are, the line is becoming pretty thin between shipping and shopping. Shipping is becoming a part of the product. So it's incredibly important for the retailers to be able to offer a seamless pre-purchase and post-purchase experience that bundles their product and makes it powerful, makes it user-friendly. Now, how do we manage this? Let's start with the visibility paradigm, right? The traditional approach of supply chain service providers and customers is it starts at the point at which you hand over a package to the supply chain service provider, and they do what they do. And at the end of the cycle, you figure out what got delivered on time, what didn't, and you start to root cause and solve problems. If we move towards a paradigm of creating joint data platforms, where the service providers get visibility way upstream of what's coming into their network, their ability to optimize improves dramatically. Secondly, the joint data platform can start to develop real-time forecasts. I mean, when I say real-time, that is where the resilience comes into play. Real-time information and forecast, the way we can flex our network to add more capacity during surges, like peak season, like the events that, as you described at the start of this call, that keep happening, the way we can expand and flex our network to help our customers deliver that service is incredibly powerful. The solution is, it is not just FedEx or supply chain service providers who can solve it. It's not just large retailers who can solve it. The solution is joint data platforms where we expose our network, state of our network, and what our capabilities are in real time to our supply chain, to our customers. Our customers expose real-time demand to us, and we jointly plan. What that does is it makes our network an extension of our customer supply chain. They have real-time visibility, and it makes it an extension of their supply chain. I mean, I'll pick one example here. We've built a machine learning model in Dataworks that predicts expected delivery date in real time. If there's any disruption to a package, it recasts. And after a package is in flight, that EDD can be useful for customers to keep their consumers informed and delighted if there is any change, right? More often than not, if you know something is delayed, you're less irritated than finding out it's delayed when it's not there on the day it's supposed to be, right? But the same EDD, when we expose it up front, when a consumer is browsing on a retailer's website, right, and they go on a SKU, a shoe, or a shirt, and it says, order within the next 3 hours and you're going to get it by Thursday, becomes a cart conversion, a revenue generation tool. And the same EDD helps FedEx optimize last mile locations, vans required, people required to be able to deliver. It's built on a joint data platform. It's one machine learning model, and its application is across the spectrum. Collaborating with service providers and moving upstream on controlling visibility from the point of demand is the long-term solution. And we've got to be open about working together on joint data platforms and making our network an extension of large retailers' supply chain.
Fascinating, absolutely fascinating, Sriram. I also loved that bit you said about the line between shipping and shopping is very thin. That was a good one. With your permission, I'll use it elsewhere too. On the topic of customer experience and customer expectations, Sriram, so I wanted to ask you about a phenomenon that we are increasingly seeing in this industry in particular. With the changing demographics and evolving work and life patterns, we are seeing customers more demanding than ever, insisting on faster, obviously more pocket-friendly and very personalized options in terms of the products and how they want it delivered, and so on and so forth. It is obviously a tall order for any one entity to fulfill. So we are seeing a concept called ecosystem business models. And thanks to the cloud technologies and the API economy, operational hurdles that in the past made it difficult for these ecosystems to come together are also becoming simpler to overcome. How do you, in FedEx Dataworks and more broadly on the FedEx side, how are you seeing this, and are you doing anything along those lines?
Absolutely, Krishnan. I'll trail back a little bit to the example I gave on the retailers on creating joint data platforms. That what I was talking about was, there's the extension is to ecosystems, collaborative ecosystems, right? I mean, if it's an extremely large retailer, yeah, we can build joint platforms, data platforms between FedEx and its large retailer customer. But we have millions of customers who are shipping with us, and they're all working off of an ecosystem, whether it's an order management system or it's a warehouse management system or a transportation management system. Exposing our real-time insights, exposing these value-added visibility and optimization capabilities on joint ecosystems is the way forward, and we are sure about it. We have partnerships with Microsoft, we have partnerships with Adobe, we have partnership with Salesforce, and more recently, we are working with this company called 4Kites, and we launched a product called 4Kites X. 4Kites is a third-party supply chain digital visibility platform, and we're working with them to share our insights there, and so that it can help our customers who multi-source from different carriers to have a single place of visibility. The idea is the more platforms get built, the more insightful and useful the platforms become. And these platforms is what I call joint ecosystems. Supply chain as a platform is not existent today, which is why supply chains have become boardroom conversations today. With the disruption that we've seen over the past 3 years, collaborating from a data perspective, demand generation started 2 decades back. How do I generate more revenue started 2 decades back. But now that shipping and shopping are becoming really thin, the line of divide is becoming really thin, it's as important to manage experiences and actually use the capability of post-purchase to make it a demand generation tool. For this, we absolutely have to start thinking ecosystems. We absolutely need to start moving ecosystems. From a physical infrastructure perspective, the hundreds of planes that FedEx flies every day, the thousands of facilities that we have across the world, the number of people who are on the street, the vans that are on the street delivering, it is what it is, right? But there's only so much optimization you can do if you think about it as a separate network, and that you hand over a package and you're not connected to what happens downstream. But to be able to connect back through joint data platforms, one customer at a time, is an impossibility. That's where the ecosystem model comes to play. And that changes the definition of how you compete. It's not just about speed. It's also about choice. If you want to customize at scale, you have to work through joint ecosystem models, and data and digital being the enabler of these joint ecosystems with cloud infrastructure is absolutely the way to go.
Thank you, Sriram. Again, fascinating, the common thread across all of your answers in this conversation, Sriram. Thank you so much for those answers, Sriram. One last thing, what are you reading these days? What books are you reading? I'll make that my last question in this conversation.
Sure. I'm reading a book called Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. It's a very factual description of what happened in Germany. It's a very factual description of what happened 50 years before. Right. The time that we saw during the Second World War and the sequence of events through the Second World War. That's one area of passion of mine, history. I really love to go back and read, because I don't think we need new lessons. If we learn the lessons that humanity has been taught over time, we could build a better world. That's one thing. And the other thing that I'm reading is I love anything quantum theory. I think that's where philosophy and science will start to meet over a period of time, the two disciplines. So I read quite a bit. So it's always these two subjects: history, historical fiction, and anything to do with quantum theory that I find interesting. So that's what I'm reading nowadays.
That's fantastic. I'm not at all surprised that you're a voracious reader, Sriram. This kind of thought leadership and vision doesn't come through without reading tons of stuff. Hey, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's too bad we only have 20 minutes for this conversation today, but I do look forward to continuing our conversations elsewhere. Thank you so very much for being with us today, Sriram. And I wish you, FedEx Dataworks and FedEx, the very best. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Krishnan, and I wish a wonderful event for NASScom. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk about this journey that's been FedEx Dataworks and the larger FedEx enterprise, and enjoyed talking to you. I appreciate it very much. Love this
Thank you so
conversation.
much.
For more interesting content, like, comment, and subscribe to our NASSCOM YouTube channel.